Prior to 1840, the popularity of opium sales were increasing in China, and the need for opium in Britain was reaching an all-time high. By 1839, an imperial Chinese commissioner ordered all foreign traders to surrender their opium, causing the British to send ships to the China coast, beginning the First Opium War. By 1841, the Chinese were defeated by Britain, losing Hong Kong and large amounts of money. The war put China in turmoil and economic trouble, which caused many men and families to travel to the U.S. in hopes of striking it rich at the gold mines. Later, their labor was put to use on the railroads, and this is a story of a Chinese family and their struggles to make it in America. In 1865, the Transcontinental Railroad was beginning development. Mr. Young and his sons were one of the 95% of Chinese immigrant males who went to work on the construction of the railroad in Gunsan, or the Golden Mountains as the Chinese would call America. The primary location for immigration was Daifao, which means big city, referring to San Francisco. Chinatown's 12 blocks of crowded wooden and brick houses, businesses, temples, family associations, rooming houses for the bachelor majority was home to 22,000 people. At this time in the U.S., the Chinese ratio of men to women was 20-1. The U.S. paid the Chinese immigrants low wages for difficult and demanding work. Workers such as Mr. Young worked long days to provide for his oddly large family at this time in history.
The Chinese were often discriminated against at this time. They were the only ethnic group of the history of the U.S. to have been specifically denied entrance into the country. The Chinese were prohibited by law to testify in court, to own property, to vote, to have families join them, to marry non-Chinese, and to work in institutional agencies.
Did you hear about Mrs. Chin Shi?
No, what happened?
Well, you know how she has bound feet and they're only 3 inches long?
Why are they like that?
Well, in China, it's custom for the high class to have bound feet because it symbolizes that you're upper class and you'll get a high class husband.
Well, why don't we have bound feet?
Well, because we're not high class. But anyways, that's not the point. In the U.S., they're actually looked down upon, and Mrs. Tren told me that Mrs. Chin Shi had an encounter with some white people, and they actually made fun of her, so she went home crying, and she tried to fix them by putting weight on them, but the damage has been done, and the weight doesn't fix it because she's had bound feet her whole life.
Are you girls done setting the table yet?
Yes!
Lee, I want you to grab the eggs, and Mai grab the salted pork so we can begin eating.
Great. I just found out that I will be unemployed in a few days since we're almost done with the railroad, but we need to find a way to provide for the kids since we're sending the boys away to China for their education.
Why don't we do what my friend's parents did? They opened a laundromat in the corner of Washington and DuPont.
Really?
By 1870, some 2,000 Chinese laundries were in the trade, growing to 75,000 in 1880, providing a better living for Chinese families.
That actually sounds like a good idea. Since the boys are leaving to China, it would take the whole family to help around. And it would also be a good idea since Lee has to find a good husband.
How are the women going to contribute to the store since they cannot be seen out on the streets?
Well, the women would have to work in the back, and we should hurry up before we lose the girls to their husbands.
We better hurry up and open the shop. The plan is for us to leave to China in a few months.
Well, if Lee's gonna get married and the boys are going to China, why can't I just go to China with the boys to go to school?
Don't worry about an education. Just focus on helping your mom with the shop, to then find a good husband and then provide him with a son.
In a typical Chinese American family, the father would be the head of the household, where the rest of the family members would owe him respect for being the main provider. The mother's role was to take care of the little ones and keep the household running. In the same way, young women like the 16 and 11-year-old girls would help their mom around the house with chores. Women in this time were not allowed under any circumstances to show themselves out on the street unless they wanted to be viewed as improper. Young men, like the 17 and 13-year-old boys, would either have to work or get a proper education and find wives, though at this time there was a shortage of Chinese women in San Francisco.
A few months later, the young family prepares to open their laundromat after deciding it would be a good idea for the family.
Alright, girls, get ready for a busy day. We have a lot of silk gowns, men's pants, shirts, socks, and some slippers.
I wish the boys were here to help us run the front of the shop. It would be so much easier. I miss them already since they left for China. I bet they're almost done with their education and finding some nice Chinese wives.
When are they coming back?
Ying-Yang, did you hear the news?
News about what?
We might not be going back to Daifao as soon as we thought.
Oh no, why is that?
The Americans passed the Chinese Exclusionary Act of 1882, which suspended Chinese immigrants such as doctors, lawyers, clergymen, and unskilled workers.
So they aren't making any exceptions?
Yes, they are, but just teachers, students, tourists, and clergymen.
Well, we lived there before. We should be able to go back.
No, but you need to have permission, the paper signs, which it's a documentation that you're pretty much your ID.
Well, that sounds like it's going to take a long time.
The Chinese Exclusion Act of May 6, 1882 suspended the immigration of Chinese laborers for 10 years. On April 18, 1906, just as the Young family found success in the laundry business, a huge earthquake struck San Francisco, causing fires and damage to everything the family has worked for.